Luke chapter 8, the parable of the planter. And as events happened thereafter, Jesus journeyed through all the cities and hamlets, everywhere preaching and disseminating the good news of the divine monarchy of the Lord God. And the great 12, the apostles, accompanied him. And Jesus cast out demons from many women as he journeyed, and healed them of weaknesses and diseases. Mary, also known as Magdalene, and from her Jesus expelled and banished 7 demons. Likewise, Joanna, the wife of Chusa, steward of Herod, and Susanna, and many supporters who assisted him from their material resources and affluence. And a large crowd assembled. They came from all the surrounding cities and regions to see Jesus. And he taught them by a parable. A planter went forth to plant his seed, and while he planted, some seeds dropped by the roadside and were treaded again and again, and the birds flying in the air came and consumed them. Some seeds dropped on rocky ground, and once they sprouted, they shriveled and perished due to lack of water. And some seeds dropped amongst thorny plants, and the thorny plants sprouted with them and choked them to death. The other seeds dropped on favorable soil, sprouted and produced fruit 100-fold. After Jesus had spoken these words, he stressed in conclusion, "Whoever has ears that hear, let him hear." At this point, the followers of Jesus asked him, "What is the interpretation of this parable?" And Jesus said, "Unto you it has been granted to grasp the mysteries of the divine monarchy of the Lord God. But to the others it is presented in parables, that witnessing they may not observe, and listening they may not grasp." Now, this is the interpretation of the parable. The seed is the divine word of the Lord God. The seeds by the roadside are the people who listen somewhat, but then Satan comes and removes the word from their minds, that they might not believe and attain salvation. The seeds on the rocky ground are the people who, listening, joyfully embrace the word. But these people are without root, who believe for a period of time, and when temptation comes, drop out. The seeds that dropped among thorny plants are the people who, having listened, proceed and are choked with desires, affluence, and the delights of the world, thus bringing no fruit to success. But the seeds that dropped on the favorable soil are the people who, when they have heard the divine word with great, sincere, and excellent mind, preserve it and produce fruit with perseverance. No man, after lighting a lamp, covers it with a pot or keeps it beneath a bed, but he places it on a lampstand so that all who come in will see the light. For there is nothing mysterious that shall not be unraveled, nor is there a thing concealed that shall remain unknown and not come before all. And so you should pay careful attention to what you hear. For any man who has will receive more, and any man who does not have will forfeit even what he appears to have. At that time, the mother of Jesus and his brethren came to see him. But could not yet come near him, as there was a great multitude of people in the place. And some people approached and told Jesus, "Your mother and your brethren would like to see you. They are waiting outside." But Jesus replied and told them, "My mother and my brethren are all these who listen to the word of the Lord God and act accordingly." And now, as events happened, one day Jesus and his followers entered a vessel. And he told them, "Let us go across to the other area of the great lake." And so they set out. But as they proceeded and sailed further, Jesus settled quietly to enjoy a nap. And then a dreadful storm started with high wind gusts. There was tremendous water increase. The situation was quite intense and alarming, and they were thus endangered. And so the disciples rushed to Jesus and woke him up, crying, "Teacher, teacher, we are doomed." And Jesus got up and reproved the gusts with furious. He reproved the gusts and furious water. They calmed, and peace reigned in the lake. But Jesus queried his disciples, asking them, "Where is your faith in the Lord God?" But they were terrified, also astonished, and addressed each other, saying, "Just who can this be? For he reproves and instructs the gusts and the waters, and they listen to him and do whatever he tells them." And they proceeded, sailing until they reached the country opposite Galilee, known as the Gadarenes. And as Jesus alighted from the boat into the country, a stranger coming from the city came and met him. The stranger had been possessed by demons for long. He was stark naked, homeless, and dwelled in the sepulchres. The stranger saw Jesus and yelled and was downed before Jesus, yelping with a piercing voice, "What business have I with you, O Jesus, Son of God Most High? I beseech you, do not distress me." For Jesus had reproved the filthy demon and cast him out of the man. For the devil had many a time possessed him, and he was stopped and restrained, fettered and guarded, but then he destroyed the fetters and escaped, and was driven by the evil spirit into the wild desert area. Now Jesus asked this man, "What is your name?" And the man replied, "Legion," as he had been possessed by a multitude of demons. And they implored Jesus that he should not expel them into the bottomless cleft. At this time, there was a group of pigs feeding on the mountain, and they were quite many. And so they implored Jesus that he would allow them to possess the swine. And he allowed them. So the demons left the man and possessed the pigs. And the group of animals ran crazily down the sharp sloping area and headlong into the lake, drowning immediately. The people who fed them witnessed this event and ran homewards into the city. They went everywhere in the country and made a report. Now the people came out to find out the facts of what happened. And so they approached Jesus, and they found the man who had been liberated from demons seated at the feet of Jesus. He was now clothed, no longer naked, decent, and in his right mind. The people were filled with awe. The witnesses who saw precisely what happened told the people how the man who was possessed by evil spirits was liberated and healed. So the masses in the entire region of the Gadarenes asked Jesus to leave the place, for they were terrified. And Jesus entered the boat and sailed away. The man who had been liberated from evil spirits appealed to Jesus that he might accompany him, but Jesus granted him freedom, saying, "You may proceed to your own dwelling and tell what wonderful things the Lord God has done for you." So the man proceeded throughout the entire city, talking about the wonderful, miraculous things Jesus had done for him. As Jesus arrived the other shore of the lake, the people were happy to see him again and received him with great pleasure, for they had waited long for his coming. And the man called Jairus soon arrived. He was a Jewish leader and bureaucrat in the synagogue. He greeted Jesus very humbly and politely, lowering himself at Jesus' feet and imploring him to come to his residence, as his only daughter was seriously ill and dying, and she was just 12 years old. As Jesus proceeded, large crowds of faithful thronged after him everywhere. And there was a woman in their midst who had been sick with chronic hemorrhage for 12 years. She had spent all her wealth on physicians and medical care, but no doctor could heal her. She forced her way through the masses behind Jesus and gently touched the edge of his clothing, and her hemorrhage stopped immediately. And Jesus asked, "Who just touched me?" After everyone had denied it, Peter and those who accompanied him said, "Teacher, the crowds are increasing, pressing and thronging in on you. And are you asking who just touched me?" But Jesus insisted, "Somebody just touched me. I became aware of it when power went out from me." By this time, the woman knew that she was not hidden, and so she came forward, filled with awe, and she politely, very politely lowered herself before Jesus. And right there in front of the multitudes, she told Jesus why she had touched his garments and how she was healed on the spot. And Jesus comforted her, saying, "My daughter, your faith has made you healthy, renewed. Go in peace." Jesus had not quite concluded his speech when somebody came from the bureaucrat's residence and addressed him. "Jairus," he said, "your daughter has expired. Do not bother the master anymore." But when Jesus heard this, he told Jairus, "Fear not, only believe. Have faith in God, and she will be healed and fresh again." When Jesus entered the residence, he would not allow anybody to join him except Peter, James, and John, and the parents of the girl. At this time, everybody was wailing and grieving for the girl, but Jesus said, "Stop wailing. The girl is not dead. She's just slumbering." And the people laughed and made fun of Jesus, for they were sure that the girl was dead. But Jesus left them behind, outside, proceeded, and took the girl by the hand and called her, saying, "My dear child, arise." Her spirit returned, and she arose at once. And Jesus instructed them to furnish her with foodstuffs and make her comfortable. Her father and mother were astounded, but Jesus warned them not to discuss this glorious, most miraculous event with anybody.